Hello, this is Nolan Duncan, the current co-president of the Dead Podcaster Society. Today is a special podcast episode as we have the now officially 2025-2026 school year president and vice president with us today to talk about their plans for next year. So I'd like to give them a second to introduce themselves.
Perfect. Thank you. I am Connor Waller, junior political science and history major from Ironton, Ohio, and I am now the student body president-elect, and over the past year I have served as the student body vice president.
Hey y'all, my name is Alissa Davis. I'm from Canova, West Virginia. I'm a political science and communication studies double major, and I'm the student body vice president-elect.
So could we just begin by giving a brief overview of what your all's platform was and what its main goals were?
Of course. So when we decided to run, one thing that we wanted to make sure was that our administration would be student-focused. So we came up with 3 pillar points: student experience, student wellness, and student success. Alissa, do you want to describe these?
So student experience, I think the whole thing at its core is focused on the student experience, but student experience is more about making sure that students have things to do on campus and have opportunities available to them. And then student wellness focuses on making sure that the student has resources around them that make them capable of achieving what they came to college to do, which is get that degree and maybe have some memories along the way that they can reflect on as time goes on. And then student success is making sure that they have resources on and off of campus that can connect them with work opportunities after they graduate.
And with that, I can give you a couple policy points to go with each pillar. So student experience. One thing that is important when we talk about the student experience is collaboration. So over the past couple months, I've been working with a committee of people on Marshall's campus to work towards the renovation of the Student Center basement. And I believe we both feel that this will be absolutely essential in creating that collaborative experience with the student body because, as we can all see on a regular basis, room in the Student Center is often hard to come by, especially at those peak times during the day. So we're working towards that, and hopefully we can get that rolling over the summer. And some other things with the student experience, we just need those pop-up events that students can come and be part of that Marshall community, whether that be on the plaza or somewhere else on campus, as well as looking towards something potentially bigger, such as a fall or spring fest that can bring everyone together collectively to have those special Marshall moments. Now, with wellness, we've had some success there this year. We're now a part of the U.S. Health Promoting Campuses Network, which is a collaborative group of many of our peer institutions that we will be able to use to get those resources and make those strategic plans towards wellness over the next few years. But some specific points there have to do with trainings. So we want to bring CPR trainings, AED trainings, naloxone trainings, QPR trainings, which deals with mental health. We also want to improve AED accessibility on campus. That is something that's lacking right now. And then finally, with the student success, this one is where it comes to our administration specifically. We have designed our administration to handle student concerns in a way that is caring and compassionate and make sure that those concerns are carried to the proper channels. So we've created 2 new positions, the Secretary of Student Advocacy and the Secretary of Student Success. That advocacy role will facilitate those concerns and share those with myself, Alissa, as well as the Secretary of Student Success, who will go with me to take those concerns to the proper department. And then finally, with success, we think transparency in student government is absolutely vital, and that's something that I believe, after working in SGA for the last 3 years, absolutely needs to be improved. So our administration would like to start a monthly SGA report that will be sent out to the entire student body through email and give all of those updates, what SGA is doing, what events are going on, and et cetera.
So besides, of course, the new roles and the planned monthly report, what other ideas do you have to not just improve the student council, but also make it more accessible to the student body on campus?
In the past, we've recorded our meetings. That's something that we'd always be willing to bring back if students were interested in watching those. But we also have a gallery where students can bring in their concerns, and just making sure that students know that option is available to them. And if they can't attend, because we are aware that that's not always a convenient time for students to come and speak, they're open to emailing us or messaging us. I mean, we make our phone numbers available. We plan to continue to do that. We want students to know that they can email us with their concerns, and we'll have the voice for them. We'll show up and make sure that they're heard at the end of the day.
And I think overall, just us being present is important. So throughout this past year, I know Alyssa's done the same. we make sure that we can go to every event that is possible for us to attend as our schedule allows. That is something that I believe is just a necessity. We have to be present. You can't expect the student body to feel represented if you're not there for them at all times.
And you can't adequately represent their concerns if you're not participating in anything other than SGA outside of your work as the student body president or vice president.
Absolutely.
So why were these specific goals you went over, the 3 key points and all the initiatives, why were those selected? Why were those your focus?
Absolutely. Really, it boils down to the fact that I don't feel like the student body felt that they were being truly represented.
Yeah.
And over the past few years, I've seen that. I'll say I've worked towards making that better, but up till now, I don't think the right things have been approached. And after the experience I've had, I feel like we have a better idea of what direction we need to go to make sure that this is possible. Because at the end of the day, the student is what comes first. You cannot have a Marshall community without the students being part of that community, and if they're going to be part of that community, they have to feel like they're part of that community. So I think that really is what drove both of us to this administrative goal, and honestly, I believe that the student body will be receptive to this, I hope, and I hope they feel comfortable to come to us, because I've learned this over the past year. When we go to the administration, we can't say that, oh, we think this is a problem, this is a concern, without the data to back it up. We need the students to come to us and tell us their concerns. Because when I take a concern to a certain department on campus, it is received in a way that they are much more receptive to going out and doing those things to make that situation better for the students. So overall, I believe this is just our attempt to reach out to students and make them feel comfortable to come to student government for help.
So building off of the whole, what you have seen, what you've experienced, what do you think the current administration failed to address that you for sure plan on addressing next year?
I would say, as part of the current administration, everything's a learning experience. When you go into something, you should never expect all of your plans to go successfully. You have to be willing to pivot when something does not go your way. And I know we did that this year. So going into the semester, we had plans for specific trainings that dealt with safety. After we got into the school year, we realized that wasn't the thing, after talking to students and putting out surveys, that was the actual concern. So we transitioned those trainings to mental health-based QPR trainings. So that was just one example of pivoting. And back to your question about maybe what didn't go as well as I would have hoped it would with the student representation, I don't think we were able to make that connection as strongly as we could have. Now, I was at as many events as I could. I was out and about. But in my role as student body vice president, I have to say there's a lot of internal work to making sure the organization keeps going. So it's a collaborative effort, and the team we put together this year, I believe, really encompasses what it means to be a representative group. So I think the answer just boils down to the fact that we just need to do more of that direct outreach.
Yeah, and I don't think we really focused on the failures this year. It was more just about taking in the student experience. This was a really foundational year for us. I was the chief of staff in this past administration. I planned the homecoming parade. There were things even there that I took in and I noticed could have been better when I was planning it. And I made a list and I noticed that there are things that I could go back and improve next time with the next chief of staff, Eric Cochran. And I think a lot of it's just about taking in your experience and making sure that you're doing the best that you can do rather than just replicating the same thing every year. It's all about the building blocks in this administration.
Absolutely.
So building on the foundational aspect of it, what specifically from the current administration do you plan on building upon and continuing next year?
I think the trainings was a really big thing for us. We saw a lot of success in that, and we saw a lot of areas for growth and improvement. We want students to be adequately trained in all these different areas, especially when it comes to mental health resources. In times like these, it's just important to know that all students, especially students in this generation that are active on social media and otherwise, they have the correct skills to help them be equipped for the workplace and dealing with matters such as mental health or food insecurity, anything like that. We want to know that those resources are available to students. So building off of that in the past administration is important to us.
Yeah, and with that goes our participation now in the U.S. Health Promoting Campuses Network. So this year we had a Secretary of Mental Health Initiatives, Anna Holstein, who kind of worked with us to pursue that partnership in that group. And now she is still on our cabinet this coming year as the Secretary of Wellness. We have broadened that so that she can kind of expand and take her role in different directions. So she will serve as the student representative of Marshall University on the U.S. Health Promoting Campuses Network, along with the incoming wellness coordinator in student affairs. So that is something also that we will be building on in this coming year from this past year's administration.
And she, as we all are really passionate about taking experiences from larger schools like SEC schools and other places and using plans that they've implemented that we've seen successes in and using them on Marshall's campus. And we think that there's a lot of things that we can work with on her that would, or with her that would improve our campus.
So, speaking of resources, a lot of the articles that I've written in the past few semesters, every once in a while I get an article talking about a resource or whatnot, and a lot of students talk about how even though they're sad to this change is happening, or there's always like this common trend of not knowing about resources. So what is the student council's plan to not just improve the resources that are already on campus, but improve the way these resources are communicated to students?
Absolutely. I think this is really it's a university-wide problem. There's always a marketing problem when it comes to making sure the students know the resources are in place. And this goes back to the transparency aspect that I talked about earlier. So when we put in a monthly report to the student body, we can highlight resources every month, one or two that are succeeding or that are new so that students know they exist. We can also put a big push towards our social media to make sure that these resources are put out there. And I think really we can even invite these groups to come speak at student government meetings so that while students might not always be there in the gallery to watch, at least our students know that these resources are available, and then they can take those out and share them with their peers.
And we could also use our Instagram account. This is something we've discussed before. We could highlight organizations and highlight resources and give you that in-depth view. I know some people aren't checking their emails a whole lot. I have a whole lot of friends that have like 100 notifications and they don't even know what's going on in that email, and they'll probably never open it up. But I mean, using Instagram and social media, these platforms that we see a lot of students sharing their concerns are, and just giving them the opportunity to watch a short little video that highlights a resource and lets them know exactly how they can use it. Maybe using someone in our cabinet as sort of like an example of how you might sign up for this resource or how you might go about receiving it. And, I think discretion is a really big thing too. A lot of people don't want to publicly announce certain resources that they're taking control of. And I think destigmatizing those resources is a big thing within our administration too, and letting students know that plenty of students on campus use those resources, and we want them to know that even people within the cabinet do, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, and we want you to know that you're being granted this opportunity because you're a student at Marshall and you're paying tuition, and they should be available to you.
So since beginning your campaign this year, since narrowing down your goals and whatnot, and even since last Wednesday when it was announced that you all would be next year's president and vice president, what are some big issues that have recently came to your attention that you've decided to put a focus on for next semester?
One thing, it's hard to put policy with this, but overall we need to make sure, in light of recent events, in light of recent legislation coming through the state government, federal government, executive orders, etc., we have to make sure that students still feel like this is a welcoming, collaborative campus. And this is something that I've struggled with over the past couple of months, because it's heartbreaking to think that students might not feel comfortable anymore with the changes that are going into effect. So really, we, as a student government, as a student body, as student leaders, we need to show that Marshall University is staying true to the Marshall for All idea. Students need to know that we are meeting them where they're at, and that we're going to make sure that they have all the resources that they need to succeed. So that goes back to the previous question, making sure that all these resources, they know they're there. And where resources are lacking because they've had to been cut by state regulations, we need to fill those voids. So that is something, of course, that will be a day-by-day basis. We don't know exactly what we'll need to fill those voids as of right now, because these changes are happening as we speak. But I think we're both going into this with compassion and a heart for change, and we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome.
So are there any rough ideas of plans to help students that are being impacted by specifically the removal of DEI initiatives? Are there any rough ideas, rough drafts, just anything?
This is where it comes to the fact that we need you to come speak with us if you feel comfortable. About 2 months ago, we had a student come to us with concerns about this. There were concerns that the administration wasn't being as open as they had wished they would be. So I talked with President Smith's Chief of Staff, Jenny Painter, and asked if I could put a group together from various stakeholder groups, including the psychology department, which has many programs that deal with DEI subjects, Society of Black Scholars, Black United Students, other groups from Intercultural and Student Affairs, and ask if we could come to President Smith's office and have this conversation, talk about these difficult questions about the future. And I believe that's always the first step. We all have to be willing to communicate with each other and express those needs that we have so that those who do have some opportunities to make these changes can know what is needed. Because at the end of the day, we can't really ask for those changes without that input. And of course, we do have ideas and a lot of that still comes to the transparency aspect and the communication. But I really just want to encourage students to come talk to us. We're always open to any conversation, no matter how difficult it may be.
And with situations like these, where certain organizations are getting cut out or renamed, I don't want to, well, I know Connor doesn't either. We don't want to manhandle, an organization that we're not part of and speak entirely for you, but we do want to advocate for you. So if you could just come to us and speak to us about what it is that you want changed, let us be that voice for you. I don't want to, manhandle an organization that I'm not part of or anything, but we want those organizations to exist. And a big thing that we're going to work on in this administration is bringing back organizations, bringing back the numbers, because I think a lot of student organizations on this campus are sort of dying. I mean, there are a lot of things that are becoming inactive. If you get on HerdLink, it says there's so many hundred organizations. There's over 300, but most of them don't have 20 members, and I think that's really sad, and I'd like to bring that back as well. I think that we could work on bringing back numbers and making students feel comfortable looking for their community and helping them find that community on their time on campus.
I do want to apologize. I feel bad that this is the last question I have because we have such a momentum, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing this question. But I guess you could say it ties back to this whole conversation we've had about your all's administration being more transparent. And once again, I know you're tired of hearing this, but
you're fine.
I know in this year and even last year, mainly last year, I noticed with last year's election, one of the big topics was the involvement of Jaegers within the cabinet. Connor, I know you're a Jaeger. Yes. I know during the WMUL live stream, you all talked about how you all don't have that many Jaegers. I know last year, the Raffaningo campaign, they were criticized for how many Jaegers they had, and then they tried to, but then other people brought up the Bria Waller campaign. So why do you think students put an emphasis on how many Jaegers are part of the student council administration, and how has your administration acknowledged this issue?
I would say, okay, Connor could answer this question. I think that it could be better coming from me because I'm not a Jaeger scholar. I don't hold any big name scholarship on this campus. I think that those scholarships are wonderful, but I don't think that it's a lot of students that are concerned with it. I think that it's a few students that bring it up a lot, and it is a big issue for them possibly. But I think at the end of the day, I encourage everyone to get involved, whether there's 10 Jaegers or 0 Jaegers in student government. At the end of the day, we just want students to be involved, and I know that's all that matters to Connor. And Connor isn't looking to represent the ideas of the Jaeger scholars. He's looking to represent the ideas of all students on Marshall's campus. It's Marshall for all. That's the motto that we're sticking with. We want students to know that their voices will be heard, and we're not living for some title, whether it's Jaeger scholar, student body president, or student body vice president. At the end of the day, we just want to represent students adequately. We're coming to you open arms, no title that we're trying to represent. We are students at the end of the day. That's what we are at our core. We're none of these other things that we may have collected in organizations over time. We just want to be students, and we want you to know that we're with you, and we share your concerns, and we want to represent those.
So that's all the questions I have. At this point, I'd like to let you all give some final thoughts.
We're just excited to see what we can accomplish in this upcoming administration. Again, I want to emphasize that we want students to feel comfortable coming to us and speaking to us about anything that's bothering them, things that they want to get involved in, things that they like and they want to see happen again maybe in the next year. There are a lot of projects that I'm looking forward to working on with our cabinet. Community partnership is a new position that we have. We want students to have internship opportunities that can carry them into the workforce that are within walking distance of campus even. And maybe getting a Fall Fest started. I think that's something that I'm pretty excited about. We'll see what happens there. I'll leave the rest to Connor, though.
Can we get Ross Lynch or someone similar to show up? I know that was one of the big things students were making fun of.
Lord, I hope. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, just to close, thank you, Nolan, for having us here today.
Thank you for being here.
Definitely appreciate you, as always. I want to close with the broad ideas with which we're going into this. Some people might be tired of hearing me say this because it's something that I really, truly keep on my heart at all times. When we come into these positions, as Alissa said, we're not looking for the title. We're not looking for some type of authority. We're looking for a way to make this community better. This community that I know for both of us has made our lives so much more richer over the past, I've been here 3 years, she's been here 2 years. But we have to repay the community for what it's given us. And with this, I come to all of the students leading with compassion and a sense of servitude. I'm not here to lead for myself. I'm here to serve you. Whatever your needs are, I am here for you. And I do this with this sense of compassion because that is what makes people feel comfortable to be part of a community. So at the end of next year, when I graduate, if I can leave knowing that I've made other students as proud to be part of the Marshall community as I am today, this will all have been a success.
So I just want to say thank you all again for coming out and talking today. I want to thank any listeners listening for taking your time to listen to this. This has been the sit-down interview with Connor Waller and Alissa Davis. Thank you for watching and have a good day.